but I think we'll catch up in the break. And Brenda's really good and quick. She's done this lots of times. So CJ Terrell from Autonomous Solidarity Organization.
I've got a quick question. Can folks hear me without the microphone?
Yes.
Is that real? All right. I feel like I can be a little more expressive with my voice if I don't slam your guys' ears with this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and set it down. Why I'm speaking today is because I have a personal story with homelessness that I feel should resonate with this community. A lot of people that work with me on a day-to-day basis have no idea, but the only time period in my life where I wasn't worried about being homeless was the 18 days that I spent living in the Capitol building. Fortunately enough for me, I've always been blessed with a community that's just done so right by me. Also, bear with me, this is a very spiritual experience for me right now. I was baptized in this building, and when I was like 4 years old, I told my dad one day, I walked up to him and I said, Dad, I don't know why I feel like this right now, but someday I'm going to speak here. And I don't know what I'm going to say, but it's going to be important and people are going to listen. I feel incredibly blessed to be speaking to you today. I have spent the entirety of my adult life hopping from home to home. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and as a freshman, I got screwed by the FAFSA. Absolutely screwed. The FAFSA said my parents could afford to help me. My parents could not afford to help me. This led to me getting a bunch of seriously usury loans. This led to me working 35 hours a week trying to pay rent and going to school full-time. That didn't last long. I couldn't afford to live where I was. I lost a lot of very good friends in my life for just being poor. And I want people to understand that my personal story, every single time I have been on the brink of homelessness, somebody has taken me in, just out of the kindness of their heart. I've never once spent a day in a shelter. I've never once worried about where my next meal was coming from, even though it's constantly on my mind. This is the kind of community that we need. And you know, we can sit here and talk all day about what we're going to do to end homelessness, but the reality is I don't see a community that's ready to end homelessness. You know, we pay a lot of lip service, but the reality is if we're still fighting over whether or not it's legal to sleep on the street because you have no other place to go, we're not going to end homelessness. If we're still arguing about, you know, whether or not to ticket somebody who pees in an alley because they have no place to pee, if you can't pee anywhere inside, where are you going to do it? Because you got to pee. You're a human being. It's crucial that we take the feeling of the necessity of making housing a human right and actually go out into the community and do something about it. You know, it's very similar to all the other struggles that we're struggling with on this planet. Racism, sexism. These are things that will not end until we look ourselves in the face and end it within ourselves, right? What can you do for somebody struggling in your community today? That's so important to think about. You know, and a lot of the economic culture and the societal problems that we have lead us to feel like we can't help enough, and that turns a lot of people off. I know several times I've walked past somebody who just needed $1, and I felt terrible because I couldn't give the next guy $1 too, so what am I going to do about it? And we oftentimes allow that to shut us off and to stop us from doing anything we can in our communities. All right, I'm gonna backtrack here for a second. I'm a founding member of the Autonomous Solidarity Organization. It's one of the best families I've ever had. I set a personal goal for myself 2 years ago to meet everybody. So it would mean a lot to me if at some point you see me around in this community, just stop and say hi. I'd like to meet you. I'd like to network. I really feel like there's a lot of important things that can be done in this community, but first we have to build this community. We live in a generation where we've cut each other off from each other. And even when we're talking, we're not really talking. You know, being on Facebook for 14 hours a day does not mean you have a community. And that's very important. You know, I can't walk up and shake somebody's hand on the street because everybody's got an iPod or has their face in a phone. You know, this community will never prosper until you can walk down the street and look each other in the eye again. And we need to build the community, and we need to understand who our neighbors are. Because if we continue to target the folks amongst us who need our help the most, all we are going to do is blow each other apart, and we might as well all give up now if that's the mantra we're going to have in this community. And it's not acceptable for me to live in a community that does that to people, and I hope it's not acceptable to you. You know, there are real things that can be done. You know, a lot of the people that get a free pass in this community because they've been so nice to some of the people you like are not necessarily doing right by everybody in your community. And that needs to be said. If everybody in this room called Noble Ray every day and said, quit prosecuting homeless people, I bet he'd get pretty tired of it pretty soon, right? If everybody in this community called Paul Sogling's office every day and said, hey, like, just because you don't want to look at them doesn't mean homeless people don't exist, you know, maybe we could get a little more headway on that front. Mostly, I just want to connect, and I want you to connect with me. And if anybody has any ideas about what to do about anything at all, I have an office on the 4th floor at 123 State. Stop in, say hi. I also work at the fountain downstairs. I practically live in that building. And I really think that this is about all of us, and we need to bring each other together, and we need to start targeting the people who need our help, but for the right reasons. And we really need to turn this thing around because, you know, a lot of folks don't realize my entire generation is on the brink of homelessness. The unemployment rate for 18 to 25-year-olds is 49.5% and rising. That's not laziness. That is a targeted attempt to make sure that we have nothing. Your children, your grandchildren, the future generations of the people you care about are very much on the brink of homelessness and very much on the brink of disaster. And that needs to be recognized. Just because you're comfortable doesn't mean the world is okay. Thank you so much.